going to talk about the Scream Killer. The Scream Killers. Thank you, Megan, so much. Honestly, thank you. We're going to talk about the murder of Cassie Jo Stoddart. And this is a young girl that got killed by two of her classmates because they wanted to commit a murder. Now, they also made home movies. Thank you, Megan. Thank you, Charlene. Thank you so much. Let me open my notes. Have you not heard of this one, Kirsty? This is a truly... This is one that has lived in my nightmares for years. Because when we talk about horror films, this was a true life horror film. And it was her friends that did it, surely because they wanted to kill someone. But they did it in the most horrific way, where she would have died truly terrified. American case, yeah. They call it the Scream murders. Scream mask. The Scream mask is kind of... well, let's talk about it anyway. So the year was 2005, and Frank and Alison Contreras were excited from their move from San Francisco Bay to the home they'd purchased in Pocatello in Idaho. Now, what do I want to say about this? Okay, so this family were moving to this area. They were going to an area where there was only 57,000 people. It was a lot smaller when they were used to. And this family moved there and they got a new home, and it was on a place called Whispering Cliffs Drive. It was 4 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, and sat on 2 acres of land in a really quiet, secluded area. And it was one that was going to be so much more easygoing than San Francisco, in this big area they'd come from. Now, Frank and Alison had 2 children from previous relationships and 1 child of their own, and they were going to be happy in their new home. Now, we'll get into it, Tilly. So the following year in September, Frank and Alison made plans to go away for the weekend, and they needed someone to watch their house. Their niece, 16-year-old Cassie Jo Stoddart, would come and babysit for them on several occasions, so she was an obvious choice to come and watch this home. Now, they knew Cassie was a straight A student. She didn't do drink or drugs, and she got straight A's, so she was trustworthy to come and house sit for them, and she would take good care of the home. Now, Cassie jumped at the opportunity to house sit. She loved spending time around an uncle's house, and it'd be an easy way for her to make cash and catch up on some of her schoolwork. So she was going to come and stay at this house in the middle of nowhere with 4 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, a massive house on Whispering Cliff Drive. So let's get into a bit of the background of Cassie. So she was born on December the 21st, 1989 in Pocatello. She had an older sister called Christy and a younger brother called Andrew. Cassie's parents were not together. We don't have any information about how long they'd been divorced because it's not part of really Cassie's story. And the Stoddart children were close with the grandparents on both sides, and they lived in the home with their mother and their stepfather. Now, Cassie, we know, was a talented artist. She loved music. She was smart, strong, good-willed, kind. Her brother Andrew described her as his role model, even though she was only a year and a half older than him. And Andrew and Cassie were not just siblings, but best friends. Now, Andrew said, Cassie and I were into the same stuff and going to the same places. He added that while sometimes they argue like all brother and sister, they pretty much did everything together. Now, Cassie was a junior at Pocatello High School, and it was at school that she met her boyfriend, Matt Beckham. As of September 2006, the two had been dating for about 5 months when the story happens. And after school on Friday, September the 22nd, Cassie arrived at her aunt and uncle's home on Whispering Cliffs Drive, where she would house sit until Sunday. And she was going to go there, just house sit. So there was no one else in the house apart from her. Now, since the house was in a pretty remote area, she asked Matt if he could come hang out with her in the evening, and he did. He arrived at the house at 6 p.m. The two decided to watch a movie. They watched Kill Bill Volume 2, and Matt invited over 2 other friends. They would be Brian Draper and Tori Adamczyk. Brian and Tori were classmates of Matt and Cassie's at the high school, and this is why it's called the Scream Murder. Now, they were classmates at Pocatello High School, and while Cassie considered them friends, They weren't particularly close. So they did make they used to film around the school a lot, these boys. They had a big camera recorder from back in the time. And they would be like going up to her at the locker, and I'll show you some of that in a minute. They would go up to her locker and be like, hey, Cassie, say hello to the camera. So she knew them. They were in the same junior year together, but they weren't like, they wouldn't have hung out without Matt being there. Now, Cassie was a little annoyed when Matt invited them over because she just wanted to like sit and chill with him. But Matt told Cassie that it would be okay. They were just going to hang out and watch a movie together. Now, Brian and Tori arrived around 6:30, in between 6:30 and 7 p.m. And Cassie gave the boys a tour of her aunt and uncle's house. And while she was showing them the basement, Brian unlocked the door which led to the backyard without Cassie's knowledge. Once Cassie finished giving the tour, the four returned to the living room and began watching the movie. About halfway through the movie, however, Brian and Tori announced that they were bored and wanted to leave. They told Matt and Cassie they were going to go to the movie theatre, and they'd been in the house about 2 hours at this point, but they left. Now, after 15 minutes after they left the home, all the power in the house went out. They were plunged into darkness in a big isolated home, which they didn't have a lot of knowledge of where the electrics were, where anything was. They knew the circuit breaker was somewhere probably in the basement, so they were spooked. But there was no way they were going to go down in the basement. So they sat on the couch huddled together, hoping the lights would come back on. Now, at the same time, one of her aunt and uncle's dogs began growling at the door which led to the basement. Now, this added to Matt and Cassie's fear. Now, Matt had a bad feeling. So he called his mum and asked if he could stay the night with Cassie. His mum said no, that she was going to pick him up. And I wonder here a little bit why the mum sorry, I've got such a cold at the moment. Why the mum didn't say something here, like, no, we'll pick Cassie up, we'll drop her back to her house. Like, we're not leaving Cassie there on her own. This is quite a big case. A lot of you probably heard some of this case. I just wonder why you're like, no, I don't like the idea of you staying there in that situation. I'll come pick you up. We'll just leave Cassie there on her own. I just don't really get that. Eventually, some of the lights come back on, and that made Matt and Cassie feel a little better. Around 11 p.m, Matt's mum came to pick him up, and Cassie and Matt said their goodbye, leaving her at that home by herself. And this would be the last time Cassie would be seen alive. 2 days later, on September the 24th, the Contreras family arrived home as planned. Frank and Alison's 13-year-old daughter was first to enter the home. The front door was unlocked, which she found strange, but she didn't think too much of it. And when she went into the living room, she began screaming. Her parents ran inside to see what was the matter. I know, Cassie, I didn't get it. There was blood everywhere. There was blood on the carpet, the furniture, the walls, even as far up as like the family photos on the walls. And on the couch lay the deceased body of 16-year-old Cassie Jo Stoddart. Frank called the police right away. Cassie's devastated mother and stepfather soon arrived. And Andrew Stoddart, who later described himself, Cassie's stepfather phoning him, sobbing down the phone that his sister had been murdered. I dropped the phone and crumbled to the ground, Andrew said. I didn't even know how to process it. I was 14 and a half and my sister was gone. When the murders spread quickly through the community, things like this don't happen here, residents said. Investigators quickly arrived and began processing the scene. The sheriff's department put the Contreras family up in a hotel during this time so they could investigate. And they were looking for... yes, she did go to the door with him, so his mum had seen her alive. So they started looking for forced entry and stuff in the house. They couldn't find anything like that, which suggested that Cassie had let the killers into the home, that she knew them. Now, apart from the scene in the living room, the rest of the house appeared undisturbed. None of the Contreras belongings were missing, which ruled out a motive. The dogs and cats had been locked in separate rooms, but were unharmed. The next question. Cassie's autopsy revealed the sheer brutality of her attack. She had been stabbed 30 times in the chest, neck and back, and abdomen. Between 9 and 12 of her stab wounds were fatal. She had defensive wounds on her hands and arms, and it estimated she'd been dead for about 2 days when she was discovered, meaning that she died after 11 p.m. on that Friday night. Now, Cassie's boyfriend became one of the main suspects, obviously. They had kind of thought about it, the detectives, that... how many taps have we got? I can't see it because it just says lipo there. They kind of said that because it was overkill, right? Oh, thank you, Kirsty. Kirsty set the treasure box for everyone. Thank you, guys. because of the amount of overkill, like the amount of stab wounds, they thought it was like a romantic partner or somebody. Oh, that's amazing, guys. That's so amazing. Thank you. So they were looking for somebody who had been close to her or had like a real kind of love or hate relationship with her. Now, Matt was eager to be ruled out, and he answered all the questions. He gave a really detailed interview in all the details, and he talked about how Brian Draper and Tori Abnachek had come to the home. He told them all about the phone call he made to his mum and how his mum picked him up and didn't want him to stay. And the following day, on Saturday the 23rd, he repeatedly called Cassie, but she never answered his call, and he thought that maybe she was still mad at him for leaving the night before. Investigators are quite sure that Matt wasn't responsible for the murder. The combination of his timeline, his phone records, the alibi, all meant that it was unlikely that it had been him. They asked him some more questions about his friends, Brian and Tori, and Matt said he was better friends with Tori and that Cassie hadn't really been friends with either of them, that they kind of knew her through him. Now, on September 25th, 2026, Brian and Tori were brought in to question him, and the two boys were led to separate rooms along with their parents. They were allowed to have their parents as they were 16 at the time, and both of them sat for several interviews over the next few days. Before speaking to investigators, Tori told his mother that he had been with Cassie and Matt and Brian that night, but had nothing to do with the murder. Tori's mother, of course, did not want to believe her son could be capable of something so heinous, so she just kind of did not question his story, really. As investigators got the investigation to kind of progress. Why have I got loads of new people from Japan following me all of a sudden today? Welcome in. We had this a couple of weeks ago, didn't we? I don't know if it's like troll accounts. Hello, Boo. So as the questions and the investigation kind of... the treasure box. Okay. I was thinking then, like, oh, bots. Okay. The investigation did start to kind of move on. They explained that after they left the Whispering Cliffs, Adam and Tori, that they went to a movie theatre, but they had nothing to prove that they were there. Brian originally said they went to see the movie Pulse. When asked to describe the plot of the movie, he could not. On September the 27th, 2006, 3 days after Cassie's body was discovered, Brian cracked. He told investigators what happened that night, and he didn't exactly confess, but said that Tori had been the one to kill Cassie. Now, these are the boys we're talking about here. Okay. Brian's story went like this. Him and Tori went to Cassie's that night, and while she was giving them a detour, he unlocked the back door to the basement so that him and Tori could re-enter. After watching part of the movie of Matt and Cassie, him and Tori left, telling the other two they were going to the movie, but they actually never left the property. Oh, he's going to laugh at me then. He's going to get his charger. Okay. Good girl. I'll make so let one's in the room, one middle one. Good night, beautiful. Thank you. Instead, they went outside for about 10 minutes, and this is when they went to the car and put on Halloween masks, the Scream mask. So they put on the mask of the Scream mask from the Scream films, put on gloves and grabbed knives. They then went back into the house via the unlocked basement door and hid in a small room where they turned off all the lights. They then turned the power off in hopes this would lure Matt and Cassie to the basement where they wanted to kill them both. But when they never came down, they turned the lights back on. Ghostface, yeah. Brian and Tori stayed in the basement, and when they heard Matt leave with his mum, they begin turning the lights back off, then back on, then back off. And they waited for Cassie to come down into the basement in order to find the circuit breaker. And they thought that she was going to come down, but she never did. So then they turned off all the lights in the house again, leaving Cassie in complete darkness. And she must have been so worried. They were turning off all the power at this point, so she would have been unable to charge her phone, unable to do anything. She would have been absolutely fucking terrified. The dogs were growling at the basement door the whole time. And then they creep up the stairs, and then both boys turn on each other and say they cornered her in the front room. And Brian says Tori began to stab her. He says the other way round. In Brian's fourth interview, he told investigators that while Tori was the first to stab Cassie, he did stab her in the leg and chest. But this was only because Tori was threatening him to do so, because according to Tori, Cassie was going to die anyway. Tori could no longer claim that he was innocent, as he did up to that point, but he did his best to wiggle his way out of any accountability by pointing the finger at Brian. Tori was obviously implicated, but he said that it was all Brian's idea and he didn't really know what was happening. He just thought they were going to scare Cassie. They were just making a movie, like Scream. And this is why they wore scream masks and had menacing-looking knives. They were planning to make a slasher film of their own. In Tori's explanation, this resulted in the case becoming known as the Scream Murder. Now, when they're in the basement, Tori said he was too scared to go upstairs, and when he did eventually go up, Brian was there and he'd already stabbed Cassie to death. The blame did not work out for either of them, however, as investigators came across a jackpot of evidence. Now, when they went to Black Rock Canyon, where Brian had said he'd thrown the knife, instead of just finding the knife, they find the knife and the masks. And they find another 24 items. They find black boots, rubber gloves, pair of black gloves, 4 different knives, one of which has a serrated blade that looks like a dagger, Halloween-style masks, and a Sony videotape and a camera. Now, some of the items are kind of half burnt, including a handwritten note, and they couldn't make out exactly what it said, but it cleared to be a detailed list of the murder. They were able to decipher some of the possibility of the killing, and the plans actually said that the victims were supposed to be Cassie and Matt, but Matt unfortunately left that night. And they find this film that they have made, which is the whole thing is available on YouTube. I'm going to play some clips of it in a minute. I can't play all 33 minutes, I'll get in trouble, but I'll direct you to it if you want to watch after the live. Thank you, Kirsty. Thank you everyone so much, but thank you, Kirsty. So I'll play a little bit of it now so you can kind of see what this film is, and I'll just skip to a couple of parts on it, which won't be very scientific because I haven't noted it. I just watched it earlier. I've watched this several times before actually as part of different cases. So let me turn this camera on and turn off this light a minute. And I'll just show you little bits of it, but this was planned days in advance. You see the boys kind of talking to Cassie near a locker. You see them driving to the house. You see them talking about it afterwards. So I'll just show you some of it. Hang on, let me bring it down here because it'll make it easier for me to do. Don't look at my eye bath stuff. That's only part of the eye bath lives. Flip camera. Is that going to do that? Yeah, okay. Is my phone turned up?
We're here in his car. The time is 9:50, September 22nd, 2006. Unfortunately, we have the grueling task of killing our 2 friends, and they are right in a house just down the street.
We just talked to them. We were there for an hour.
But we checked out the whole house. We know there's lots of doors. There's lots of places to hide. I unlocked the back doors. That's all locked. Now we just gotta wait. And we're really nervous right now. But,
about 2 hours before she died.
To the greatest rock band
we've waited for this for a long time.
Pink Floyd, before we commit the ultimate crime of murder.
We waited for this for a long time.
A long time.
We'll stay tuned. Just killed Cassie. We just left her house. This is not a fucking joke. I stabbed her in the throat and I saw her lifeless body just disappear. Dude, I just killed Cassie. Oh, fuck. That felt like fucking real. It went by so fast.
Shut the fuck up. We gotta get our act straight.
It's okay. Okay, let's go move tickets now.
Okay.
Come on. Everybody. No. Goodbye.
And if you remember, her boyfriend just left at 11 o'clock. This is 11:32. They've already killed her and they're on the way home. I can't watch his pigeon chest anymore.
Yep. People will die. Memories will fade.
Memories fade. I wonder what movie you got that from, Brian.
Myself. That was for myself.
No wonder it was so lame.
Okay, we're on our way, and I'll let you stay tuned. We're almost there.
I know, Cassie.
Dixon's house.
The editing's shocking, isn't it? Every now and again play the drum.
Snooped around. Bring Cassie's room.
I want to see, oh look, this is Cassie at Locker.
He's supposed to be here at 7:30, and it's 8:19. He's an hour late. You don't even care, dude. See ya.
They were filming her for days before, like at a locker, like then, and then like when she's off screen, they're talking about like how they're going to kill her. She is pretty beautiful. Mod in here, please reply. There's loads of mods in here. Can the mod say attack Kirsty, please?
We're stuck in there, just for school projects. I guess. Well, yeah, I guess you call it project, right? Yeah.
Kirsty's getting quadruple tapped. Tag.
Yes, it does.
So this is what the police find after the fact. It's basically a whole confession on tape. Them excited. We stabbed her in the throat. She couldn't even breathe. She was screaming. I'm going to talk about that. I'll put a couple of the things they said in my notes because I thought they were important bits to highlight. But this is after they completely blamed themselves. They've completely blamed each other. Like, I had no part. And then they're like playing them this tape saying, well, you said here that you stabbed her in the throat. The videos were filmed between 8 p.m. on September the 21st, the evening before the murder, and 11:31 on September the 22nd. Now, Brian on it says, we found our victim, and as sad as it may be, she's one of our friends, but you know what? We all have to make sacrifices. Our first victim is going to be Cassie Stoddart and her friends. We'll find out if she has friends over when she's going to be alone in the middle of a dark house in the middle of the night. How perfect can you get? I mean, holy shit, dude. And Tori says, I'm horny just thinking about it. The following is from September the 22nd, the day of the murder, just before 8:30 a.m. And Tori and Brian are at school and they approach Cassie at a locker. And Tori just like is just kind of looking at Cassie, and then they like point it behind Cassie a bit later and go, I was going to kill him first, like a different student. Then Brian says, September 26, 2006, we're skipping our 4th class. We're writing a plan right now for tonight. It's going to be so cool. And Tori says, we're still making our death list right now. Brian says, hopefully this will go smoothly before we get our first kill done, and then we could just keep going. And Tori puts, well, if you're watching this tape, you're watching your future serial killers. They laugh, they talk about previous attempts they made to murder people and express regret about how it hadn't worked out before. And Brian says, we probably tried 10 times now and they've never been home alone. And Tori said, or if they have been, their parents have then showed up alone. Brian then says, as long as you're patient, you know, when we're patient, it's now paying off because our victim's home alone. We've got our plan all worked out for tonight. I'm so sorry, Cassie's family, but she has to be the one. She's the only one home alone. And she's perfect. She's so perfect, she's going to die. They laugh some more and Cassie approaches them and the boys say hi and continue to videotape her. And the next day you see when they're sitting outside the house. I just played that bit. And then at 11:31:56, they're back in the car. And Tori's driving back and Brian is filming and he says, I just killed Cassie. We just left the house. This is not a fucking joke. I stabbed her in the throat. I saw her lifeless body just disappeared. Dude, I just killed Cassie. Her life disappeared. And Tori puts, oh my God, awesome. Brian says, oh fuck, that felt like it wasn't even real. It went by too fast. And Tori said, shut the fuck up. We've got to get our act straight. And then Brian says, we need to buy some movie tickets now. And Tori says, okay. And this was all recovered at the Black Rock Canyon and was taken to the lab for forensic analysis. And they found her blood all over the gloves, over the knives. Her blood was on the serrated handle of the knife and the blade. And Tori Abdichek's DNA was discovered on one of the masks. So they were tried for the murder of Cassie Jo Stoddart, and they were tried separately. It's the Scream murders. So Brian Draper and Tori Abdichek were tried separately. Brian's trial began in April of 2007 and Tori's began on May the 31st, 2007. They were each charged with one count of first-degree murder and 1 count of conspiracy to commit murder because of the planning. They would be tried as adults, and a friend of Tori's 18-year-old Joe Lucero testified at both trials that around August the 31st, 2006, he recalled having a call from Tori asking if he would go to the shop being 18 and buy knives for them. Together, Tori, Joe and Brian went to the local pawn shop to buy the knives. On the way there, they stopped at the ATM so Brian could withdraw money, and Brian provided $40 and Tori provided $5. Tori chose 1 knife and Brian chose 3. Thank you, Kirsty. Kirsty's put a super fan box up. Only get it, please, if you can't afford to get one yourself, so we can get more members of the community in. And whoever gets one, can you please thank Kirsty, because it's a lot that she's done that for someone. So, evening, Scott Swallow, how are you? Brian did not leave his defence team too much to work with, given his confession, his lead in investigators to the cache of evidence at Rock Canyon, and he literally said, "Dude, I just killed Cassie. Like, I stabbed her in the throat." She put a 5 up. Oh my goodness, thank you, Kirsty. That's loads. Thank you. For 5 people, everybody, big up Kirsty, please. 5. Kirsty's always so supportive of my channel. Please, everyone, thank her, especially if you get one. So, Tori, on the other hand, stuck to the defence at trial that he did not know Brian was actually planning to kill Cassie. He thought the whole thing was part of a movie and it was not real. And this boy said, "Well, I didn't know we were going to kill her." And they're like, "You're on tape planning it for days. You talk about how you tried to kill 10 other people." He goes, "Nah, I actually thought it was just a movie. And I actually thought we were buying the knives. It was just part of a movie. Like, he was just fucking, at least take some fucking accountability." Both boys' defence attorneys attempted to have the bid. Thank you, Funny Bones. Thank you so much. Both boys wanted to make the attorneys fought to get the videos made inadmissible in court and tried to have the trial moved before the video become public, but everybody would see these videos. The prosecution in both trials claimed the boys' motive for murdering Cassie was fame and notoriety. They wanted to become serial killers. They used their own words against them from the tape, in which said they were going to be infamous and they wanted to be just like Ted Bundy in the Hillside Strangler. Hello, Simon. It also came out of trial that Brian was fascinated with the Columbine High School murders, Dylan Klebold and Eric Harris. He felt as though he could relate to them because, like them, he'd always felt like a bit of an outcast. He'd always felt like he wanted to cause chaos and destruction and the same magnitude as they did. Now, on April 17th, 2007, Brian Draper was found guilty of first-degree murder and conspiracy to commit murder. And on June the 8th, Tori was found guilty of both charges. Both boys were sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole, plus 30 years for conspiracy. So they will never, ever get out. Both boys appealed their convictions, albeit with different degrees of determination. It seems as though Brian was more accepting of his punishment, while Tori, who continued to claim his innocence, was less so. Tori's family were firmly behind him at the time and continue to say to this day that they accept him emotionally and financially to no end. His mother, Shannon, has written a book about her son and his experience of being tried as an adult, despite being a juvenile at the time of the crime. So she's made money off this as well. I'm not here to judge her at all. I just think, I feel like he's not even taken accountability, really. He's always tried to blame someone else. You've got your son on video talking about how awesome it felt to stab a girl in the throat and kill her, and how it all went a bit too quick and he tried to kill 10 kids before. I'm not sure that you should be putting our family through writing a book and making money off it. It's just too much for me. The attorney for both boys filed appeals for the Idaho Supreme Court. Brian was seeking to have his conviction vacated or to be given a limited life sentence that he could get out on parole. His attorney, Molly Husky, said her client's immaturity and poor judgment was partially attributed to his youth at the time of the crime, and he deserves a chance at getting out. The appeal was denied by the court, but they did throw out the conspiracy conviction on the grounds the jurors were given bad instruction when they were coming to that. It's Tori's mum that wrote the book, Shannon Ablachek. So that doesn't bother me, them throwing out the conviction, the conspiracy charge, because they've already got life with no parole. So really it doesn't mean anything. Hey, Team Jesus, hope you're okay. As for Tory's appeal, his attorney, Dennis Benjamin, specified 8 different points of concern about his client's conviction. Oh, they've taken off my glyphs again. All because I said she should make money out of a book. Wasn't asking for gifts though, was I? It's only 10 minutes, I think. Won't let me appeal it either. The appeals, but I didn't even do anything. Oh, oh, no, I won't let me close it. Oh, it's 10 minutes. I'm trying to appeal it, but it won't let me click on the buttons. So they said that Tory was only 16 at the time, that there was 8 points in the case that shouldn't have happened in the trial. He also said there was a lack of evidence to prove that Tory actually stabbed Cassie, or any of the stab wounds he inflicted had helped her die, should we say. He was pretty much saying that yes, he may have stabbed her with every intention of killing her, but it wasn't his stab wounds that killed her. The appeal was not granted, and both of their convictions were upheld. Into July of 2015, Tory was granted a hearing for post-conviction relief as a result of his attorney claiming that Tory's former attorney did not call character witnesses who could have changed the outcome of his sentencing. This feels really weak to me. Like, I don't give a fuck if he was a nice kid. I don't give a fuck if he helped old people across the road. Like, he went on to brutally murder a girl purely because she was in a house by herself. And she would have died terrified. The lights going on, off, being in a random house in the middle of nowhere, not being able to get help. Like, they didn't care about her. And even like filming her at her locker, being like, she's going to die tonight. Like, you absolutely knew what you were going to do. And at any time you could have stopped. You let her show you around her family home, or you're like opening doors and that, thinking, no, I'm going to come back and slice you up in a minute. This again was denied. Of course, Tory appealed this decision. In May of 2020, he went back to appeal again in 2019. And it seems that they were all denied. Cassie's aunt and uncle, Frank and Alison Contreras, had only been living in Whispers Cliffs for about a year when Cassie was killed, and this absolutely destroyed their life. They felt really responsible. Another 5, Cassie. Are you sure? Are you sure this is okay? Who won the last 5? Can anyone tell me quickly who won the other 5? I didn't see who won. Did you all say thank you to Kirsty? Big up, Kirsty. Hi, Ricky. How are you? Oh, you actually, Carney Bob, you're good. Mummy of One, Sassy Princess. How did you get that? And I didn't get it. Stacey R24, you got 1. Sophie Johnson X. Christy Malumu, you got 1. And Miss CL88. How did you know I was going to ask that? That was good. That was who won them. You can't see them. I don't know if it's something to do with being an island then. Chloe, can you see that box? Chloe. Sorry, she's probably at the pub. You can see it, Kira, so it's not that. Can you see? Chloe can see it. I don't know who can't see it then. It has. Have you guys got updates or something? Because I know you're all Heart Me members, so you should be able to see it. That's really random. You can't see the box when you're in Scotland. I can see all of them. In bed with whiskey. I can't, but not from the UK. I can't see in America. Some people are saying when they leave the room and come back, then they can see it. So who won the... Oh, we've got 1 minute left on that box. Oh, big up you, Kirsty. Thank you so much. I can't believe Harley Bob sent me a list of the winners just as I was going, who won them? After returning to the home, the aunt and uncle, after it's no longer a crime scene, Frank Contreras told the Idaho State Journal in 2014 they had the house repainted and put in new carpets. They tried to make the house feel like home, but they knew they would never again experience joy in that home. It was supposed to be everything. The emotional toll hit her auntie Alison so hard that she lost her job and fell into depression and became suicidal. Their daughter, who found Cassie's body, had a breakdown at 11 and attempted suicide. Frank had to pick up a second job to keep the family going. He said, I just quit loving and started drinking. The pressure on the marriage and his family was almost too much to bear. Their family, because I think it's because I talked about a book that someone had wrote It should come back on in a minute. We don't always think of that, right? Like, it was their home. It was their forever home. They just moved there and they lost everything that day. Like, for their daughter who found her cousin's body to have tried to kill herself because of what she saw. Did we? That's amazing. And for her aunt to not be able to work anymore, you know, her uncle started drinking. Like, they absolutely saw the worst that day. And they asked her to, gift isn't working, I know it's come off for a minute. They asked her to house sit, and they had no idea that would happen. They completely trusted her. The pressure on marriage was almost too much, but they did eventually get better. Frank said they continue to feel trapped in a house they can no longer live in. Every year since murder, Frank and Alison put it on the market. I can't find out if they ever did really sell the house. The last time I saw them talk about it was about 2016. Andrew Stoddart, Cassie's brother, spoke to the Idaho State Journal in 2016, 10 years after his sister's murder. He explained how everybody had been affected by her murder. I'm going to take these bastards down and put her back up. He said that it took years before anyone could talk about it, and their mum, Anna, was particularly really, really upset, and just kind of it ruined her life. Well, everything felt dark for a long time, and the loss of his sister did bring some perspective about life. He said, it makes me appreciate things more, really. You never know how fragile life is. You never know how easy it can be taken by someone one day. Thank you, everyone. Say thank you to Kirsty. That means a lot. That's 10 people now that can come to Super Fan Lives, and I know not everyone can afford it right now, so it's very generous of Kirsty to do that. She's paid for 10 tonight, for 10 of you to come in, so please make sure you say thank you. I know a lot of you have already. Asked whether he could ever forgive his sister's killers, he said, no, I cannot. He said every time they keep appealing their sentences, his family's wounds are reopened. Now they want to move forward with their lives. They don't want to sit in any more courtrooms or see Brian Draper or Tory on the news anymore. Andrew said, we love her. It's always going to be a part of us. It's not like it's ever going to go away. It will always be on the back of the mind. She's forever 16, but we focus on being a family and staying together. We focus on the good, and when she was still around, no one should ever have to go through this. And I completely agree with that. Tory Abduchek, he kept appealing until 2020. Right, this happened in 2006. I don't know if you can send personal words anymore, Kirsty. You'll have to have a look at it. He absolutely appealed up to 2020, 14 years after the crime. And every time it goes back to court, the family have to go back to court. They have to be dragged through this whole thing again. And it's not fair. It's not fair. Like, you killed somebody. You attempted, hey Katie, you attempted to kill 10 others. You admit that on the tape. So at this point, you should just accept your punishment and shut the fuck up. This is why the appeal system is so shit.